Hi everyone, this is Kathie, and we have Marcella from the blog Marcella in Cucina. Oh boy, did I say that right?
So
Close.
it's close, Marcellina in Cucina.
There we go. Oh yes, sorry. And where are you from today? Where are you visiting, talking to us from?
So I'm from North Queensland, Australia. So right in tropical north of Australia.
Right, and so we're talking to you. It happens to be beginning in
It's,
July, so it's winter for you now. Yes, yes.
yeah,
Right.
yep,
Oh, which would be a good time because we're going to be talking about your dad's saffron risotto recipe. So,
perfect.
tell us a little bit about. We were talking before we hit record, but tell us, everyone, kind of. So this is your dad's recipe, and you have a blog post that's so sweet because it talks about how it wasn't really a lesson; you just made it together, which is the best food. But
Yeah.
please tell us about the recipe and kind of how it became a family favorite.
So my dad is from northern Italy. I won't go into the little town, but it's near Parma or near Bologna in that area, which is quite close to Milan. Dad's mum, which we didn't actually realise until he had passed away, was a chef de cuisine in Milan, and so Dad learnt from her, which we didn't realise how much he learnt. He just knew these things, um, and we sort of just thought, oh, that's just Dad's weird way. And then we later, as we got older, we realised, oh, he's actually got some techniques.
Mhm.
And we just learnt by his side in the kitchen. We weren't taught this is the recipe. We didn't know measurements. You just did it, just learnt together.
Right. Oh, right. And that's I think the best recipes. And I know if you're new to cooking, sometimes the idea of like not measuring feels like really daunting, but it once you get the hang of it, and the only way to get the hang of it is to try. I mean, you just have to try. You just have to do it, right?
True.
So great. And so it is saffron, rice, onions, broth, Parmesan rinds. Which if let before we get too much into the recipe, let's talk about the Parmesan rinds because I know about this, right? I have always kind of stuck the rind of. So when you buy a wedge of Parmesan, for the folks who like have only ever bought it grated, when you buy a wedge, it has a rind on it,
That's
and
right.
that rind is so full of flavor. I mean, you're not going to eat it. You're not going to eat it because it's a
My
rind, but
husband,
it's
my
so.
husband does.
Does he really? I've never known anyone to eat it. Oh, that's interesting.
Now he's going to kill me.
Oh well, there must be other people. He can't be the only person on the planet. But I just had never heard of that before.
when it just when you cook it in like a ragu
Mhm.
or even in saffron in your saffron rice, it goes very soft, and when I push it to the side, I say, oh, you can't do that, it's delicious. So I
See,
don't know if anyone else does.
that's really interesting. Yeah, no, because I will put it like in soup sometimes too, and use it for a great flavor. So never toss that away. If folks are tossing that away, you can put it in the freezer until you're ready to use it. Right? Is that what you do?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, I keep them all in the freezer. I do scrape the edge, the outside edge, just in case, with a knife, just scrape it before I put it away, just in case I don't know where it's been, or maybe I don't know if there's anything on the outside. So that's what I do before I use it.
That's very smart, wise word to see that you always learn something new. I haven't done that, but as soon as you said that, I thought that's actually probably a pretty good idea. But you're usually cooking it, but still, yeah, that's probably a good idea.
I don't know.
Right. It's so funny. Yeah, people are all different, right? I had some folks over at the house and I had picked some herbs from the herb garden for them to take home. And I was like, now just make sure that you wash them. And he's like, oh, I'll just use them. I'm like, no, there's deer that walk around and bugs and wash them before you. But yeah, everybody's different. I mean, if you don't
Yeah,
want to, I guess.
yeah. I always give my herbs a bit of a wash too.
Yeah, yeah. So for sure. Okay, great. All right. And then, I, so you've been making this since childhood, and your dad has obviously been making it for a long time, and he learned this. It was passed down in his family.
It's from his mother, my nonna Marcella. So I was named after her. So she is my nonna Marcella, who was the chef de cuisine in Milan. So yeah,
Wonderful. And so it starts with sautéing onions, like most things. But I
Yes,
thought was so great in your blog post. You talk about how your dad was like has to be really fine, and
very fine.
yeah, and so you probably still very much do that to this day. Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes. We would always use a mezzaluna, which
um,
is a half moon
mhm.
knife. So that's what Dad would use, and that's what he bought me one when I got married. Made sure I had all the correct utensils for cooking all the different foods, and mezzaluna was one of them, and that's what I still use to chop the onion very finely.
That's so wonderful. So, because I will admit that when I'm, although there's not a ton of onions in this, but when I'm doing like where there's a lot of onions, I will eventually get bored of the task, and so yeah,
True.
yeah, I get bored of that task.
Yes.
And
Oh,
so
oh,
the
I've been known to cheat and use a food processor. Big mistake, but
I it's funny. My husband's always like, "Why don't you use the food processor?" It's because I hate to clean the food processor.
yeah,
I just,
true.
I just can't stand it. And I don't have a dishwasher. We're a household of two. We just hand wash dishes. But so I hate washing. I hate the washing of the food processor. I obviously use one sometimes, but I really
Yes,
despise it. So most of the time I'll just chop with a knife and then we'll be fine.
yes,
But yeah, I do get tired of it, and I can admit to that, and I'm happy to admit that I get tired of certain tasks, and that's one of them. And I do have really sensitive eyes, and I've tried all the tricks. It doesn't
mm,
matter. I'm gonna cry, and I there comes a point where I hate it. So for anyone else out there, it's okay to hate it, and it's okay to use the food processor.
yes, yes.
And I loved what you said was to saute it in the oil until it gets ginger.
He always said the word ginger. Um, that was he. Of course, English was his second language,
Right.
um, so he did go to night school when he came to Australia. When he emigrated to Australia, that was part of his visa application, I suppose, or whatever way he got here. He had to go to night school, so he did learn a few words. He could still manage, but his word was always ginger. So golden, but he wouldn't say golden. He would say ginger.
That's so great. Okay, that's really. I think I excuse me. I'm not sure why, but I found that so sweet in the blog post. Like it, for whatever reason, you know how it is. Certain things, for whatever reason, that was just sweet, very sweet. And for folks that don't know, saffron costs a gazillion dollars. It does in the United States. I'm assuming that it does in Australia too, because
Yes,
saffron is just, it's just these tiny little threads from the
I've got some
crocus.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so if anyone doesn't know what it's like,
Yeah,
so that's my little, and inside is these tiny, tiny, tiny threads.
right. And
So
that's $600. No, it's not quite that much, but it is expensive. It is
yes,
known as the most expensive spice in the world because it's. But you don't need a ton of it, right? You don't need a lot for this
no,
recipe. So
no,
so before
and the
anyone,
fragrance is just unbeatable.
right, you cannot substitute it. There's nothing. You'll get a color. You can get the color from other things, but it's not the
Mm,
same flavor. You cannot
no,
substitute it. I'm sorry to say. So this is not something that you're going to make every week probably because of the price of that, but it is something. So how did your family eat it? Was it a special occasion kind of thing? Yeah.
well, so we probably had it more. It's funny, isn't it? Because I just said that there was no arborio rice, but there was saffron. So we did. My dad did emigrate to a very a very Italian town. It was known as Little Italy.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yep. So we did get things like saffron in a powdered form, though, and which is
Mm.
actually quite common in Italy. The powdered form
Oh,
so it comes in a little sachet, and we would probably not have it every Sunday. We would alternate with different pastas, the ragu and Dad's famous. That's another amazing dish. His sauce was amazing for
yeah.
pasta. So he would alternate it, but probably once a month we would probably have it, I would say.
Right. So
Um,
often enough, yeah.
So fairly often it was his famous dish, and of course special occasions. Not always Christmas, but Easter's we would have it, or if we were celebrating birthdays, or we would often have it. Never did we have it with ossobuco though. Um,
Oh.
Never. It was either a primo, so it came before the meat, which whatever the meat course was,
Mhm.
or sometimes growing up, it would be our Saturday or Sunday lunch. That is it in its entirety.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, that was it. So we probably ate it very differently to what maybe is considered traditional in Italy. But I also think that a lot of things are different in Italy today, and what is projected to the majority. My dad came to Australia in 1951, so he saw the war and the World War II, and there was a lot of poverty. So you didn't eat a lot of meat. You
right,
didn't, um, and even though that seems expensive, the saffron, you were using such a tiny amount to make a lot of food.
right.
Um, so I guess that's where he came from, and he only went back once, I think, in that time back to Italy. Um, so he still had that mentality of post-war Italy.
Sure, sure. Wow, really interesting. Okay, so in her recipe, and this is true for any recipe that uses saffron threads, you always have to bloom it beforehand. So you use the chicken broth that you use for
Yes,
the rest of the recipe. Great. That doesn't take any time, yeah. But the nice thing about risotto is that you do slowly cook the rice by adding broth and
yes,
stirring, right? And so it is not like a 10-minute thing for anyone. Like this is something that you do slowly and you enjoy the process and you enjoy the results. This is the kind of meal. This is not the kind of meal that you're going to throw together when you're in a hurry after work. It is the kind of meal that you're going to cook for a family meal. I think.
yes,
And I think that's really special. And it is something that we tend to talk more often than not about here on Hand Me Down Recipes. We do talk about a few quick things that have been passed down, but in general, it does seem like the recipes always take time
yes.
because we had the time to. The world was obviously different.
That's
So,
right.
right, right. So, and we had talked before we hit record that I live in a very small town in northwest Montana, and arborio rice tends to be difficult to find. And I don't know if that's true in every small town, but it is true here. Wild rice is also very difficult to find for whatever
Yes,
reason. And when you can find it, it's like you have to buy like the 4 ounce box. That's also very expensive. But so and you said that your dad did not always use arborio rice. So please tell everyone.
no. So when Dad immigrated to Australia and he came to this small town, well, eventually ended up in this small town in northern Australia, even though it was there was a lot of Italians, I things like arborio rice just weren't available, and there was a lot of things that weren't available. Now my sister and I laugh at how much is actually available, and where Mum and Dad made do with little different adaptations, as probably most immigrants did, whether they went to Australia, America, or wherever they went to. That's why recipes evolved. So Dad's adaptation for it was to use short grain rice, and that still seemed to work quite well. And that's how I was brought up. Eating risotto with short grain rice. He would wash the rice, and that was my job. He'd always say, with your little hands, just get in there and wash the rice until it runs clear. And then he would use it. That seemed to be some sort of adaptation, whether he was taking the starch out of it. So it didn't end up quite so thick, and because it's not meant to be, risotto is not meant, well, I'm still basing on my dad's recipe, it's not meant to be gluggy or
Right,
stiff. It's meant to be quite loose.
right, right. It's not
So
rice pudding. It's
no,
not
no, it's
right,
no, and which short grain rice should be for rice pudding. So he was washing all that. That was his adaptation.
right. And I think Americans seem to be very averse to washing their rice for reasons I can't quite understand. But that is actually very cultural, especially in Asian cultures. They
Yes,
wash their rice before they cook
yes.
it. So I have never quite figured out why we don't follow the tradition, but that's a whole other conversation. So that's a
I
really interesting thing. Yeah,
I don't now.
you don't know, but you don't
No,
wash the arborio rice,
no, no.
right? Because
No,
now you use the arborio rice now, not the
exactly,
short grain. Right, right,
exactly,
right,
exactly.
right. So it's a different kind of thing. That's interesting.
Yes.
And do you still serve it, once a month at your house? I mean, I know you said as a children, but do you do it as an
Yeah,
adult? Yeah.
probably. Funnily enough, I probably actually do. It's my go-to. Kind
Mm.
of when I haven't got meat out, I haven't just decided on my meal. What am I going to cook? In half an hour, I can have my risotto on the table. My husband loves it. The kids are home, my children, adult children. If they're visiting for the weekend, um, I will expand it and it will be with ossobuco or something else. But sometimes it might be just for a light lunch.
Mm. I was just gonna say, how else would you serve it just as a late lunch, just by itself?
Yeah,
Maybe a
yeah,
salad. And it is a pretty complete meal in a way. It's got the broth, which is so nourishing and
yes,
gentle. And it's a gentle meal. If you have any
yeah,
sort of kind of stomach things, it's a very gentle kind of.
definitely, definitely. It's so comforting and so um, well for me, it's just it's my food. It's just what I can eat and be completely comforted and know I'm in the right place. Um, so it's just my go-to.
That is so sweet. I just love what you just said about it. It's like you're in the right place. Like that's your place. That is just like that evoked so many food memories for me of different recipes obviously, but it's just I was like, "Oh yeah, that it when you eat the food of your people, whatever your people are, it is very much a sense of home that you can take with you no matter where you are living currently, and it is just yeah, it's very yeah. This is. I love
Mm,
that. That's so sweet.
mm,
Oh, that's
mm,
so sweet.
mm.
Thank you for
That,
saying
that,
that.
oh, that is what it is. And it's the recipe I taught my children as well before they left home. So they both love it and they both make it as well. My son, not so much. He often, if we um, sometimes you can get some Italian imports that are not pre-made but pre-packaged risotto alla milanese, the
Oh yeah.
saffron risotto, and he'll make that and says, "Oh, mum, it's just like yours." But my daughter makes it from scratch. He has made it from scratch as well, so they
Right.
both know. They both it's the food that your kids are going to eat and easy. Well, really, it is easy to make.
Right. It is. It seems years ago I saw Nigella Lawson. Do you know who she is? She's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I figured you probably did. I saw she used to have a TV show for people who don't know, and I saw a TV one of the episodes. She said, and this has stuck with me forever, and I say it all the time that time consuming should not be considered the same thing as difficult. Time consuming does not mean difficult necessarily, and even this is not like days long time consuming. It just takes some time, but it's
Yes,
not difficult. You just have to pay attention obviously because you won't have to stir, otherwise you could scorch, right? So and
yes.
that's probably that is that your biggest tip, like pay attention.
That's right. Exactly, exactly. Don't let it dry out. Don't let it scorch. Um, don't let the onions go past ginger or
Right.
golden. Um, don't let them burn. That was an absolute no no. Dad said that was absolute no no. Do not let them burn. But add enough liquid. I think that's the biggest mistake people make, not adding
Hmm.
enough liquid. And I don't know. You've probably got similar reality cooking shows like Master Chef and
Oh
different.
sure.
I don't know if you've got that. Yep. And I often see on those shows that risotto is the difficult dish, and no one seems to be able to create it properly. And I think
Mhm.
it's so easy. Why just they've presented something that piles up on a plate instead of flows, they haven't added enough liquid. They've stopped cooking it before the right time. Yes, it should be cooked at not too much and not too little, but don't make it too dry. It then becomes so heavy.
Right. That's interesting. And in the great of all great cooks, in my opinion, your blog post, your dad said, "Don't be afraid to put a good plop of butter in there." That might not be the exact words that you wrote, but it was something similar.
Always said that.
Yeah. And I think that's true because we should not be afraid of butter. I mean, it's good for us. You know, everything in moderation, but a good plop of butter adds a lot of flavor and a good mouthfeel to it. And so, yes, don't be
Exactly.
afraid of butter. Yeah, that's really
Yes.
so sweet.
Yes, he would always say, and sometimes when we're making it here with my children around, we'll always say, and remember, Nonal said a good knob of butter. So the good knob of butter will all go in, and that's just it does make all the difference. It really does.
Right. If you don't have it, you will notice the difference for people who
Yes.
are, you just really will notice. And I think that's true as well with the Parmesan rind. I know for a lot of people, they're going to be like, well, I don't have that readily available. But
Mm.
when you do have it, start buying your cheese and then
Yes.
make it. And you'll understand that there's really, I suppose you could just maybe sprinkle some cheese in there, but I don't know that it would be the same. But
Yes. We would always put in, like Dad would always stir in, along with the knob of butter. He would also stir in extra Parmesan
cheese.
cheese, and of course, on when he served it, extra Parmesan cheese on top.
Sure, of course. Yeah. Yum. So good. And so we do have. I was when you said about your son will buy like the pre-mixed stuff.
Mm.
I do know that they do have that in our grocery stores too, like the Milanese they call it too. And
Yes.
I've seen it, and I will say I don't think I've ever actually purchased it. I'm not big on those kinds of things, but they're because in my experience they're never very good.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
they're okay in a pinch,
Yes.
but I never feel like they're very good, so I don't buy them. But I'm sure that you could buy them in the United States, something that would be similar. But do make it from scratch. You'll be so glad that you did.
It definitely, the ones that my son uses are imported from Italy, and they the thing
Oh,
about,
right.
yeah, so they're not the local ones. They're
Right.
imported from Italy, and you can only buy them in specialty import stores, which luckily we have a few here. So yeah, so we're very lucky with in that way. But I've never used it myself. But
Right.
so it's just so easy to make.
Right. Now, for folks who might be vegetarian, have you ever made it with? Because I've only ever made it with chicken broth, but I'm assuming that you could absolutely make it with
I think you
vegetables.
could definitely. I have never made it with anything other than chicken stock. And if you've read my blog post, you'll see that uh, Dad would always make his brodo or chicken broth or stock from scratch. He never his house was never without a, a portion of that, a batch of his chicken stock. And he would use that in the risotto, but in his was meat and chicken, and he would use it in his risotto as well as in his ragu and other stews and other dishes, as well as having it as a soup
Right.
with a little bit of pasta in it. Um, but I think it will quite easily be made with a good flavoursome
Right.
vegetable stock. So that's not critical. I think the critical thing is the saffron.
Right.
Critical thing probably the butter, the
Mhm.
Parmesan cheese, the Parmesan rind. I think they're the critical things.
Right. Right. I often think that as long as it's a good flavored broth,
Yes,
you can
yes,
pretty much get around it in any way.
yes.
And because I too make my own broth. I have for so many years my own stock. Use the bones and the whole bit, and there's
Absolutely.
really no comparison to it. There
No.
just isn't. I, I
Mm.
know. I mean, not everyone has that time or the ability or the capability. I'm not trashing. You could absolutely buy good flavored stuff from the grocery store, and you should buy that if you don't feel it. But there really is something special about a homemade stock that simmers for a day or two. Right.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
My father would probably be horrified that I'm making it with but I do. If I've got homemade stock, I'll use that. If I don't, I'll use the store bought stock.
Right.
Um, Definitely, it makes a difference if you've got the homemade stock.
Right.
Um,
There's just a richer flavor. But yeah, I mean, for sure, I don't want anyone to think that I've never used a store bought one because I for sure have. But there is
yeah,
a different richness to the homemade stock.
yeah. And if you've got the time, you can make a big batch and put it in the freezer or can it in some other way.
Right.
That's great if you've got the time. And
Right.
not everyone's got the time. If you're working full time and you've got children and other
Yes.
activities, it's just too hard.
Right. And you shouldn't put the and that's the thing I think we forget is that a lot of times sometimes really traditional recipes uh there just was their time was different than
Yes,
it is in our modern culture and we have to remember that and we can all only do so much and
yes.
so just do what you can and that's
I,
great. Oh,
I think so. And don't let that put you off making the recipe.
right.
Um,
Right.
just just buy good quality ingredients. You don't need many for this recipe. And if you buy good quality stock, don't let it put you off making the recipe. Or probably what I should say is make it within your budget. I just think of my parents when they came here. There wasn't much money. They did what
Right.
was within their budget. They were immigrants. They started from scratch. So I think do it within your budget. Every. That's the wonderful thing about a lot of these um, traditional foods. They
Hmm.
they they were budget. They're not. Saffron is a bit luxurious, and in that way it is. But it's the basis of so many risottos. So once you learn that, you can make umpteen different varieties. But the basis of what I write in the recipe is the basis of every risotto.
Right. That's true. Right. This is the same whether you wanted to do
Yes,
something with saffron or something else. So you
yes.
can once you get it, you have it. You can easily expand it, and we will of course link to her recipe in the show notes for everyone to go and find and print off and sign up for your newsletter and all that good stuff. Great. And do you
Oh.
have any other tips or tricks for us if we're going to make the recipe?
Well, I think we've just about covered them all. Stirring regularly, adding enough. I can't emphasize enough that adding enough liquid so that it's flowy. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the word Dad always said was alonda. So alonda means like the wave. So the risotto should move like a wave. It should flow. It should ripple like a wave. So make if it's not doing that, it's too thick. You need to add a little bit more liquid. So don't be afraid. You'd be surprised how much liquid it actually does take.
Right.
The other big thing, and Dad would always say, risotto's ready, everyone to the table. It won't wait.
Right.
So probably that's a big tip.
Right. And so because of that, do you what do you do with leftovers, assuming you have any?
I still like the leftovers. We would, as children or growing up, my family would make them into a frittata, an
Oh,
omelette.
yum. Oh,
So, so frittata was the go-to. You had the risotto one day or the pasta, and the frittata was made. Mum would add a few eggs and fry it as a frittata. Um,
that sounds really good. I've never done that. I just have a tendency to just kind of reheat it and eat it that way,
yeah,
like for lunch or whatever. But
and I
um,
do too.
yeah. So that I love the idea of a frittata. I love when we talk leftovers on hand me down recipes. I get so many ideas that I wouldn't. You know how it is you kind of just do things the way you've always done it, and so when you talk to other people, it's so fun to hear what they do with leftovers because we all have leftovers. We all
Yes.
have to figure out a way to do with them because
Oh,
we don't waste leftovers.
that's right. You don't waste, and that's what my parents were very frugal because there wasn't a lot of money to go around. So they were very frugal, and we had chickens, so
Yeah.
we had to have eggs, and what better way to make a frittata with the leftovers? So risotto frittata was a commonplace in our house if there was any leftovers,
Right. Oh, that's so great. Oh, wonderful.
and
Well,
delicious.
great. Yeah, no doubt. Definitely delicious. Wonderful. All right, well, tell everybody where they can find you online, please.
Sure, Kathie. So I'm at Marcellina in Cucina at .com, Marcellina in Cucina. So, and on Instagram, Marcellina in Cucina, Facebook, Marcellina in Cucina, and I'm starting a YouTube as well. Same name, Marcellina in Cucina.
That is wonderful. And we will include actual clickable links for everyone to find you. That is great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Kathie. Thank you, Kathie. I've enjoyed that so much.